Stephen Roach is hanging out with me here in the studio for the past hour. Scott Brown from Raymond James as well. Stephen, let me just start with you because we just heard from Bill Gross, who said, look, you know, this seems overall positive in one sense, but there's a lot of question marks around this 8.6%.
Well, I would agree with Bill, Betty. I think the number is suspicious in light of the relatively anemic growth in non-farm payrolls. The payroll data is a far broader sample than the sample of households we use to estimate the unemployment rate. And by the way, you know, the whisper numbers on the payroll figure in the aftermath of the ADP report of Wednesday had moved up above 125,000, probably close to 150. So this is a shortfall. And
so this could equal a disappointment then in some ways.
I think it's another disappointing employment report, and that raises questions about the validity and the accuracy of this unemployment figure. And the final thing I'd say is the income implications of this report, with a decline in the average wage rate and flat hours worked and a shortfall of employment, they're not good. And consumers need more income if they're going to ever come out of their funk, and they're not getting it from this report. Right.
You need to actually see that continue to go higher. We haven't. It's been anemic. Scott, what is your take? How do you characterize this report?
Well, I think it's another sign that we're just sort of running in place or treading water in the labor market. You look at the unemployment rate, and clearly you've had people dropping out of the labor force. That's very common. Their unemployment insurance benefits expire. They give up looking for a job, so they're no longer officially counted as unemployed. You need to probably look at the employment population ratio. I think that's a much better measure of labor utilization, and that's edged up only slightly over the last year. So again, that idea of just sort of running in place or treading water. The non-farm payrolls, the trend we're seeing is enough to absorb the growth in the working age population, but it's really not enough to make up for the ground that was lost during the downturn. We really would like to see non-farm payroll gains on the order of 250, 300,000 per month, every month for a couple years. And I think we're a long way from that.
No, we're most certainly, judging from what we've seen in the last few months,
could be worse.
We're off from that. Yeah. Scott, just really quickly though, in the time that we have, you know, we saw the revisions though that were higher. I mean, isn't that a positive there?
It is a positive, but again, these aren't huge numbers that we're seeing in the payroll gains. I think relative to expectations of a couple months ago, when a lot of people were talking about a recession, certainly there's no sign of a recession in the economic data that we've been seeing, in particular the labor market. But again, it's disappointing given where we are in this recovery. We'd really like to be much further along at this point.
Okay, Scott, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it. Scott Brown of Raymond James.